Whew, what an amazing morning. So like a baseball coach, you got to put together a lineup. So I had to find the guy who could bat in the fourth position. So batting cleanup for me is the Babe Ruth of fire service leadership, my old friend Frank Viscuso. Frank has been a staple of the fire engineering family for close to 20 years, speaking, providing counsel and advice. Frank has never met a firefighter he didn't like, brother or sister, and he'll help them whenever one of those opportunities comes his way. He has a unique gift of finding others' strength and helping others make the best use of those strengths. Frank and I have spent many, many, many long hours solving the fire service's problems and the world's problems. And if those calls had been recorded, I probably would have proof of his powers of prophecy, because he's just an amazing guy. To say Frank is a smart guy is an understatement. Frank was blessed by his parents, his incredible parents, with the gifts of charisma and intelligence. And his use of those gifts, I know, have made his folks very proud of him indeed. The quality of Frank's upbringing is reflected in the amazing amount of love and attention that he gives to his wife and kids. I am grateful to Frank for his unwavering support and friendship, and I know that I can count on Frank for many, many, many more years to come. In my opinion, he's just begun to influence this incredible profession. Here's Frank's official 911. Deputy Chief Frank Viscuso served for 27 years on the Kearney, New Jersey Fire Department. He's a regular contributor to fire engineering. He's written 8 books, including the bestsellers Step Up and Lead, Step Up Your Teamwork, and Common Valor, True Stories from America's Bravest. In 1996, he was selected Firefighter of the Year for his department, and he received the Medal of Valor for jumping into the freezing, highly polluted, toxic, and dangerous Passaic River. A little ad lib there. On a cold winter night to rescue a man from drowning. In 2016, he received the New Jersey State FMBS Mark Vergrell Memorial Brotherhood Award. This award is the organization's highest honor because it recognizes the unselfish actions and true spirit of the Brotherhood for going above and beyond the call of duty to help a firefighter who Frank had never met. He's that kind of guy. Ladies and gentlemen, with a batting in the fourth position, with an average of about 700, my dear friend, and our final keynote presentation for 2022, step up and welcome Frank Viscuso.
Thank you. So I just want to share something with you. When you find out you're going to be sharing a stage just after John Salka getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, I kind of feel like a Little League baseball player who snuck into a Major League Baseball all-star dugout and no one figured out I don't belong here yet. So we're going to have some fun. Now, I want to tell you that my journey here to this stage, when I look back, I feel like it all started when I was assigned as my department's training officer. How many people here in this room are or have been training officers? Raise your hand. Yeah, look around. Back in the day, we had a very thorough process for selecting our training officer. We had 25 captains, one of which is a training officer, and when he was moving on, he was asking all the other officers, are you interested in becoming our next TO? And what do you think every one of them said? No. He got to me, and I said, what does a training officer do? Because I didn't know. He talked about the duties and the skills needed for that position, skills which I felt I did not possess. So I said, thank you, but I don't think it's for me. Next day, I get called into the chief's office. He says, congratulations. I said, on what? He said, you're our new training officer. I said, me? Why me? He said, you showed the most interest. I didn't know what to do. I remember talking to my brother, who was also a captain at the time. He said, look, you're in a position where you can make great change in our organization. I said, change? What kind of change could I possibly make? He says, what do you think we need? I said, Joe, we have 4 different groups, but it's like we have 4 different departments. Anyone ever feel like that? Very common, right? I said, we don't even have any SOGs. He says, why don't you write them? I said, I don't know how to write them. He goes, Frank, it's easy. You go to Phoenix Fire Department's website, print theirs out, put our name on top. He said, we share information in the fire service. I said, if it's that easy, how come no one's done that? He says, I don't know, but they're not you. I ended up writing a good number of SOGs for my organization. and creating some programs to help advance organization, acquiring millions in grant money, acquiring buildings to train in, writing books. And I don't say any of that to impress you, but to impress upon you that it was all a result of a position that I didn't want. But I approached it with the right attitude and gave my best effort. And that's what's required of you, everyone in this industry. Attitude and effort. If you bring those things to the table, you will figure it out. I figured it out. But isn't that how things often happen in today's world, where the training for the position happens after the promotion? See, we have to do a better job of preparing our team members for success. Because if we don't prepare our team members for success, we're set up for failure. We're set up to have a team of people who feel unnecessary pressure, because you know what pressure is? Pressure is the uneasy feeling that you have when you're unprepared. We could do better, and we must do better. And it all starts with you, the people in this room, because you are the heart and soul of this industry and the future of the fire service. And that all begins with us contemplating this question: why do we exist? What's your job? Everyone in this room exists to solve problems. In a world full of problem finders, we need more problem solvers, and that's why you exist. And it doesn't matter if it's a cardiac emergency, a chemical spill, or a 3-alarm structure fire. We exist to solve problems, and it's not their problems out there that we're here to solve. It's our problems, because we chose to inherit their problems as our own when we took our oath. It may be their structure that's on fire, but it's our structure fire. And how could we solve the problems out there if we can't even solve problems within our own stations? And I'm talking about the most simple things, like taking out the garbage on garbage night, or writing reports in a timely manner, or doing a thorough apparatus inventory, or changing the roll of bath tissue. It may sound like they're simple things, right? But the people that can't do the simple things are the same people that will check the box when they do their apparatus inventory, even though that tool is missing. They're the same people that will walk past the kink in a hose line on a fire ground. Why? Because it's not their problem. They're the same people when an apparatus pulls out of a station, if there's an oil spill on the ground, they won't clean it up. They'll risk somebody coming in, slipping on it, and maybe getting injured. And by the way, I've been to many of your organizations. And I know from firsthand experience, when an apparatus pulls out of your station, if there's not an oil spill on the ground, you're probably just out of oil. So I understand that too. I'm talking about ownership mentality, which is the complete opposite of something that I think is plaguing society today, which is entitlement mentality. Would you agree with that? So I want you to repeat after me. I will never walk past a problem that I can solve. Never walk past a problem you could solve. Because if you do, you are allowing complacency to set in. And complacency is the enemy. The National Fallen Firefighters Foundation came out with a list of contributing factors to firefighter line of duty deaths. On that list was complacency. Also on that list, in line with complacency, was the acceptance of accidental success and unsafe practices, which means to accept the lower standard of performance of ourselves, our teams, and our equipment, otherwise known as the normalization of deviance, which is often accompanied with the words, because that's the way we've always done it. Now, we've been conditioned to believe they're the worst words we could say in a fire service. But maybe they're not, because maybe some of the ways we've always done it are the best ways. But the worst words you could say in a fire service are, we know we should be doing it better, and we know we can, but we're not, because that's the way we've always done it. Because now you're acknowledging there is a better way, you're just doing nothing about it. And teams that don't adapt fail, not just in this room, not just in this industry, in corporate America, and not even any age group. When my son was 7 years old, he started playing on his very first travel baseball team. I was his coach, and I'm going to tell you something. This was a talented group of young little athletes, even though they're kids. But we would put them in their little stations, and we'd have a pitching station, a fielding station, a hitting station, an outfield station. We entered the first tournament, and I'm so convinced that they're going to be the team to beat. I took everything lightly. We go into the first tournament, play the first game, and I could not have been more wrong. Our team loses by 10 runs in 4 innings, and it doesn't take me long to realize why. Our boys played the same exact game as the other team. They just played at a different speed. They played with urgency, and they played with specific intent, and our boys just played. Quite honestly, the way they had been practicing. So we had to adapt the way we practice. Now, we continued working on our skills at practice because unused skills fade quickly. And baseball and firefighting have something in common. They're both built on a foundation of perishable skills, and if you don't use the skill, you will lose the skill. And by the way, baseball and firefighting have another thing in common. They're both a lot more fun when you're good at it. But now we would end every practice with a simulated game where now we're practicing for the speed of the game. And as a result of adding urgency to our practices, that team started winning championships, 9 so far and more to come. But this makes me reflect on how we train in the fire service. Now think about when you don't have access to a burn building and you can't do a live burn, or you can't bring your company to an academy. Think about a typical search drill in our fire stations. What do? We move some furniture around in one of the rooms. We put some wax paper or darken down our masks. We enter the room. One goes right, one goes left. Find a mannequin, rescue the mannequin, drills over. Let's go get a cup of coffee. Sound familiar? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's like hitting a ball off a tee. You're not practicing to hit a fastball. So when I think about that and how we search, a few of us one day were talking about what can we do to make it a little bit more realistic. So we did a class with most of our group on everything to do with search and rescue. We talked about common tools, common hiding places. We talked about vent-enter search, oriented search. We talked about traditional search. We had veterans in the room, and I had the veterans share some stories of fires from the past, because I remember when I was a young firefighter sitting at the kitchen table with my father and other firefighters of their generation, where they shared stories of the past, and they told us about fires they had been to. And by the way, the fires got bigger every time they told the story. But that's okay, because all that was a bunch of older firefighters teaching younger firefighters how to one day become older firefighters. We wanted to get back to that. So we did that, and then we moved them into the rooms. And in the first room, out of 3 stations that were happening at the same time, one goes right, one goes left, find a mannequin, rescue the mannequin. Instead of ending a drill, we had them do 10 flights of stairs while on air, safely. But now we're working up their heart rate. We move them to the second station and say, now we're timing you. Isn't there going to be urgency in the real world? And aren't you going to get fatigued when you're searching at a fire? So recreate that in training. Then we move them to a third station. In the third station, they're still being timed, and now we had some kind of element, a challenge they have to overcome. Maybe it's an entanglement, or maybe it was blasting music loud, so they had a hard time communicating. You may say, why do this? Why add urgency? Why add obstacles? Here's why. Because Sully calmly landed a plane on the Hudson River. And if you've ever heard him tell the story, he never trained to land a plane on water. He said there was no way to do it. What he did do is he trained to remain calm in the face of adversity. And if we don't put our team members in tough situations during training, it's going to be our fault if they can't react to them in the real world. And I promise you, once the battle begins, no one wishes they practiced less. And the time to figure out you're not prepared is not 4 o'clock in the morning when a building's on fire and people are trapped. And you may say, what are we preparing for? We all know that. I mean, the speakers before me have answered that. You're preparing for that one call, that one moment where your actions could be the difference between success and failure. That's why we practice the throws. That's why we practice the stretches. And it all starts with high standards and a strong culture. And a strong, healthy culture begins with good relationships. We're one team. We're one family. And if you're in a leadership position, you want to give the people on your team the time, the training, the tools, the equipment, the guidance, and everything they need to succeed, just like you would your own children. But you also want to hold them accountable and to a high standard, just like you would your own children. See, an organization that lacks high standards also lacks strong leaders. If you weaken the standard to accommodate incompetence, you weaken the culture. Because the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior that the leader's willing to tolerate, and that's the balance you have to find. And that's the balance you do find at a place like this. Because it's not just the instructors and the education, it's the time you get to spend with them in between classes, out to lunch, after the ceremonies end. You get to see what they've been through. You get to talk. I'm seeing some of my best friends right here. And I have to tell you that this is important. If this is your first time attending FDIC, my best friends have come from this room over the years. Because we share something so few people ever do. That brotherhood, that sisterhood that we're all so proud of. Now, when you leave here, you're going to want to go back and you're going to get excited and you're going to say, I'm going to make change. I'm going to implement this idea and I'm going to train the way this instructor talked about and we're going to try this. And you know what happens next? Here's what happens next. You're going to get critics. Now, how many people in this room have critics? Raise your hand. I'm in the right room. Because I'm no stranger to critics. Matter of fact, the first time I taught here at FDIC was about 10 years ago. And I was not fully prepared. And 2 of my reviews were so bad, I wanted to fold them up, put them in my pocket, and make sure no one ever knew they existed. I know I'm not the only one that ever thought that. That was a bad day. You know, actually, that was a bad moment that I let ruin my day. Next time you're having a bad day, ask yourself this: am I really having a bad day, or did I just have a bad 10 minutes that I let ruin the rest of my day? Later on that evening, I'm waiting at the airport for my flight. I start thinking about these reviews. And I said, you know what? Some of what they wrote is right. I wasn't fully prepared, but I also wasn't teaching on a topic I should have been teaching on. I spent my whole life studying leadership and team development, and I had built teams and had success building teams, and quite honestly, I had failure building teams too. So I felt I knew it worked. I felt I knew it didn't work. I felt I had a voice in that arena. I was passionate about it, and right then and there was when I conceived the idea to write the book Step Up and Lead. Step Up and Lead, the book many of you know, was partially born out of bad reviews. And I could tell you something. I could have let those 2 reviews prevent me from ever putting in the teach here again. But 10 years later, I'm keynoting. You will have critics. But they only have power over you if you give it to them, and you will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to every negative comment that's ever said to you. See, someone else's opinion does not have to become your reality, so let me give you some advice. Become the best that you can be. And then be ready to be attacked, because only mediocrity is safe, and maybe that's not even safe anymore. But if you really want critics, write a book. Early on, when one of my books were published, I remember going online to read some of the reviews. I thought, this will be fun. I had 25 reviews, and 24 of them were excellent. And then there was that one. I don't even remember the good ones, but I remember a lot of what was said in that other one. This guy wrote, this book is not very well written. I would not read it unless it's on your promotional list. If you want a real leadership book, read something by John Maxwell or Stephen Covey. It's like a dagger in my heart. I'm an overthinker. Anybody here an overthinker? Okay, so now I start thinking all the negative stuff that comes with that type of evaluation and that type of or those comments. And I remember my wife walking in a room. I'm looking at the computer. She says, what's wrong? I said, read this. She looks at it. She reads it. She goes, that's awesome. I said, awesome? What's awesome about that? She goes, that's the first time anyone ever mentioned you in a sentence with John Maxwell and Stephen Covey. That's Laura. That's why I married her. Then I saw there's a reply button. I'm a Jersey boy. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought 2 or 3 witty responses that I could maybe sting him the way he stung me. But then I said, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm going to reply the way I talk about how to deal with critics in that book. I said, I'm sorry my book didn't meet your expectations, but thank you for your feedback. Unhappy customers are our greatest source for learning. He replied back. He said, wow, I didn't expect you to read that or respond the way you did. Thank you. We need more leaders like you. It took everything in my being to not read my book again. Legendary UCLA men's basketball coach John Wooden once said, it's normal to enjoy praise and dislike criticism. But true character is when you prevent either from affecting you in a negative manner. And I have to tell you something. I do listen to my critics. I do. I read it. I listen to it. I just don't let it affect me. I don't let it stop me from going where I want to go. But even today, I'm working on another book, and this is the first time ever I let an editor review it. And I'm going to be honest with you. My editor makes me a much gooder writer. I'm going to give you some hope. Let me just give you some hope. For those of you that maybe one day want to be on this stage and one day want to be an author or an instructor here if you're not yet. I graduated in high school in a half of the class that made the top half possible. All right? So I'm a work in progress. The world's full of critics. They're everywhere, even in our industry. And we like to affectionately refer to them as the keyboard commanders. So I'd like to say this and hopefully be done with it. Stop criticizing our brothers and sisters on social media. No one is an expert at fighting the fires they weren't at. When it comes to empathy, teamwork, compassion, and camaraderie, the men and women of the fire service before us have set the bar for the rest of society. Let's not become part of that generation that destroys that reputation. It seems like when some firefighters aren't busy fighting fires, they're busy fighting each other on social media. They think it's so cool that they can start an argument. It's not that hard. You know how you start an argument on social media? It's a 2-step process. 1, post your opinion. 2, wait. We live in a society that I'm concerned is teaching children to hate or fear the opposing point of view. And I want to be a voice to remind everybody this. You do not have to hate or fear the opposing point of view. You can disagree with someone and still be friends. Yes, I'm a Yankee fan, and I could like you if you're a Boston fan. You have a choice. You have a choice of which type of firefighter you're going to be, too. You could be a hard charger, a coaster, a complainer, or a corner mutt. Hard chargers get things done. Any organization that's accomplished anything significant has had a group of hard chargers to make that happen. So I hope that's what you are. You could be a coaster. Coasters do the minimum. Coasters get the job done. And it's often been said minimum standards are one step above inadequate. I don't know. What I do know is this, that hard chargers can have the ability to influence the coasters to want to be and do more. But if they don't do that, the complainers will. The complainers are a problem. The complainers have a problem for every solution. That's why they're a problem. But the worst of all are the corner mutts. They're the ones that just sit in the corner and bark. They don't love the job. They don't care about the job. They don't care about getting better. So they just sit there and bark, and they don't want you to leave your corner either. It's your choice. That symbol on your chest, the one that we all wear so proudly, outsiders don't know the history and the traditions behind that symbol, but they do know it means fire department. And everything you do represents all of us in their eyes. It's your choice. So make good decisions and be a leader. And in case you haven't figured this out yet, every one of you are already leaders, because rank means nothing to a person who dials 911. And that symbol doesn't define you as a leader. Your actions define you as a leader. And fancy titles and bars on your collar don't define you as a leader. Leadership is determined by the amount of people you inspire, encourage, motivate, help, and serve. And if you disagree with that, that's fine. We could still be friends. But maybe, just maybe, you're not leading. Maybe you're a person with fancy title and bar on your collars. It's your choice. See, when you reach a leadership position, you can lead through inspiration or you can lead through intimidation. And inspiration brings energy, excitement, enthusiasm, and new ideas to a team. Intimidation brings fear and drama. How many of you have drama at work? Raise your hand. The biggest concern for any organization is when their most passionate people no longer care. And that's a byproduct of unnecessary drama. We can do better, and we must do better. And it starts with you, the future of the fire service. So this right here is your call to action. When you attend a conference like this, there's a really good chance that you're going to hear the words that can change the direction of your career and your life. It happened to me. I attended a conference one time. I'm sitting in the audience, and I hear the man on stage say, "A leader of one can become a leader of many, but if you can't lead one, you'll never lead any." And I felt like he was talking to me. Because up to that point in my life, I blamed everybody else for everything that was wrong except me. So those were the words I needed to hear. And this can happen to you. You can hear the words you need to hear, but I want to caution you, don't come all the way to Indianapolis, Indiana, from wherever you came from, only to miss the conference by 20 feet. Get in the room, get the information, and get excited. And I don't even want you to leave here excited, because excitement wears off. I want you to leave here committed. I want you to leave here better than you came here, just like I want you to leave your organization one day better than you found it. And you can lead the change that you want to see in your organization. And you have to be willing to lead that change. Because whatever you're not changing, you are choosing. Let me say that again. Whatever you are not changing in your personal or your professional life, you are choosing. And for things to change, you have to change, which means we have to change the way we think. Because the problems and challenges you have in your life will never be solved by the thinking that puts you where you are. And yes, it will be hard work. Is anybody in this room afraid of hard work? I don't think so. I once heard hard work defined as the accumulation of easy things you didn't do when you should have. Now's the time. And you may say, I don't have any time. You do. You just have to prioritize. Are you spending more time preparing lunch and dinner than you are preparing your mind and body for the job? And you may say, yeah, but it's too late for me. I should have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now, and the best person is you. You know, I actually have to stop. Because I actually just realized that twice during this talk, I referred to you as the future of the fire service. And I'm sorry, but you're not. You are the now of the fire service. And now is the time for each and every one of you to step up and lead. Thank you.
Hey, everybody just stay for a second. I want to show you this amazing video. Just sit down for 1 second, please. Terry, can we roll that, please? So Frank talked about realistic training. Tomorrow morning in this room, they're going to do that. 2 FDNY teams and a team from, where's the third team from?
Delaware?
No, is it Delaware? Or is it Miami-Dade? Okay, three amazing teams. So anyway, you want to see this because it's like a movie set. It's just bloody amazing. Tonight is the Firefighter Cancer Support Network Fun Run. If you don't like to run, please buy a t-shirt. It's $30. Love to have you there. It's going to be amazing. It's just going to be fantastic. Stop, Drop, Rock, and Roll in the Indiana Ballroom. Please stop by for that. Friday is the stair climb. Please support the stair climb. We've got the Union Party Friday night. It's just going to be amazing. But please stop by the GEMS games. It's just going to absolutely be fantastic. I can't thank my friend Frank enough. That was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Next year at FDIC, you are going to have the Danny Sheridan. You're going to have Brian Zaitz and Brian Brush are going to grace this stage, and a guest star that we have yet to announce. So we're negotiating. So we look forward to seeing you at main program again next year. Have a great rest of the conference. We'll be around. Stay safe. Enjoy yourselves, and God bless America.